Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to craft with pressed flowers. These flowers I'm using are from our sponsor greetingsofgrace.com. They have the most beautiful pressed flowers. They're a family-run business and they're offering you guys 10% off if you use the coupon code FrugalCrafter. I will put all the information in the video description. Check them out. You will not be disappointed. I have here a really inspiring assortment of flowers from Greetings of Grace. I thought we could do some different projects. I wanted to start off with a bookmark because it would be pretty easy, then work on to a greeting card, which is a little bit more difficult, and then work on some ceramics, which is a little more difficult only because you're working on kind of a slippery surface and getting everything to stick down can be a challenge, but I'm going to show you how to do it and it's not going to be difficult. One thing I wanted to point out, these assortments that I'm showing you run between $2 and $6 for the most part, so they are not expensive to try out. I started out by cutting a few strips of cardstock and patterned paper to fit inside my pre-made book sleeve, which basically is a clear plastic baggie. And I'm inking the edge of the panel that I'm going to arrange my flowers on. Now I'm adhering my layers of paper together so I'll have a nice sturdy base to glue my flowers onto. I decided to choose roses for my bookmarks. I think they look so elegant. Now notice how I'm opening up the package. I'm cutting a slit at the end, just cutting off that sealed area, and then I'm pulling out the little folder containing the flowers. So you can actually store them back in the packaging they come in, and I think it's a really smart idea because not only can you see everything you have, but it's going to keep your flowers from getting damaged or wrinkled. Take your time laying out your flowers. It's a fun and relaxing process, and you can move them around indefinitely until you glue them. One tip I found especially helpful was to use tweezers to place your flowers down. It's really important when you start gluing not to have your fingers all covered in glue, and tweezers helped immensely for this. I'm using Mod Podge and a fine tip applicator, but any white glue will work for gluing down your flowers. These big ones are no big deal using my fingers to hold, but once I get to the little roses, I'm going to want tweezers so that I can delicately hold them by the stems, apply the glue, and drop them into place. I try to make sure I get glue on the outside edges of the petals and the leaves so it will kind of seal it in place on the bookmark. Now this is going into a plastic sleeve so I don't have to worry too much about it, but I want to make sure they're not going to fall apart down the road. Once everything is glued down and I'm happy with the placement, I'll simply put it in a book with a piece of waxed paper on top so that it doesn't stick to the pages and let it dry. Now let's use the same techniques we used in the bookmark and make a card. I'm starting off by stamping this adorable flower fairy stamp onto some white cardstock. It's nice and smooth white cardstock that I know will be great to color on and also be great for gluing on. This stamping block I'm using is called a rock-a-block, and it's nice when you have a really big stamp that's not cushioned. It makes it allow you to have a really great impression. So then I colored my image with some alcohol markers. I used Copics and Pro markers and also Prismacolor markers. Use whatever you have, it really doesn't matter. If you want a more in-depth tutorial of me coloring this fairy, let me know in the comments below and I can put that right up for you because I did record the whole thing. Just for time purposes here, I'm going to keep it short so we can get to the embellishing with the beautiful flowers. But before I put the flowers on, I didn't want my background to be completely stark white, so I used a stipple brush to kind of sponge on some green, brown, and blue in the background. I thought my flower fairy should have a flowered skirt, so I'm using some large pale pink flowers for this, and I'm making sure that I get glue all the way to the edges, and I'm using a little more glue than I used on the bookmark because this is a greeting card and it's going to be pulled in and out of envelopes, and I want to make sure that it's going to be really sturdy. Now I made a bit of a mistake here. I thought that it'd be pretty to do a skirt with a couple different layers and I would use a couple different colors of flowers. So after putting down the two pale pink ones, I thought I would trim a red one and layer the petals over it, but when I cut it, I kind of made a mistake and everything kind of fell apart. So if you are going to cut your flowers, I'm sure there's a right way to do it. I would look up on that and I would practice on one that you're not in love with because I ended up ruining a flower over it. You can leave your flower fairy as is, but I think it's nice to kind of add some foliage around her to make it look like she's kind of nestled in a garden. And so I'm using tweezers to gently hold these dainty flowers while I apply glue to the leaves and any little part that's going to touch a paper. And then simply you want to drop it down and try not to move it so you don't end up seeing that adhesive snail trail around your images. So that's again where the tweezers come in super handy. Keep filling it in until you have it as nice and lush as you want. Then after you have everything glued down that you want to glue down, again, put some wax paper on top and place it inside of a book to dry, just like you did with your bookmark. Now let's try some of these flowers on some ceramics. I'm using a pitcher and a mug that I picked up at the Dollar Tree a few years ago. I thought they were really pretty, and I'm simply just placing some of my flowers on the surfaces to see how they look, and I think they look really great against that white surface. Now I'm taking some Mod Podge, the same glue I'd been using, and just added a few drops so I could tack it down onto the ceramic surface. Try not to do too much glue because it's going to take a while to dry, and we are going to paint over this with a sealer when we're finished. Don't be afraid to mix colors and flowers from different assortment packs. Their nature, it all looks great together, and I actually found it was a little easier to kind of work on both pieces at the same time and kind of hold each flower up against each item as I was working to try to decide where I wanted to put what. And I was really happy with how everything looked when I was done. Once you have everything glued down, you're going to need to let that glue dry before you continue on. And one tip I found to helping this glue dry well is to cover my ceramic piece with some styrofoam packing material and then weighing it on either side, and that holds the packing material against the flowers. And that's non-stick, the packing material, and it keeps it down there firmly so the glue can dry and none of the little stems poke up. Now on the picture, this is already dry, and I'm going to show you how to seal it. Sealing your ceramic pieces will make them last longer and look great, and also make them easier to clean. You'll want to use a soft brush that doesn't shed like this 1/2-inch nylon brush I'm using. Then you want to apply a clear sealer going in the direction of the stems, petals, and leaves so that you don't accidentally break off any of the leaves or kind of push them in the wrong direction. Be sure to let this mug dry for about 30 minutes before using. You can do this technique on vases, mugs, mason jars, anything you like, and I think it would be gorgeous. And there you have it. We have 4 cute projects that are so fun to make that you should totally try. And if you do, make sure you check out our sponsor, greetingsofgrace.com, and get your very own pressed flowers at the lowest possible prices with a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not completely satisfied. And don't forget to save 10% and use the coupon code FrugalCrafter when you order. All that information will be in the video description, so check that out too. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.